The business, motherfucker.
The Daily Read. Your source for news, politics, sports, and all things trending. Here's your host, Marcus Gentry.
The president suggesting that the massive hack may have been carried out by someone else, not Russia. Let's go.
And this is the Daily Read, and I am your host, Marcus Gentry. I had to play that little snippet, people, for all my truck drivers out there and all the people listening to me over the airwaves and on iHeartRadio, on YouTube. I want to thank y'all for tuning in. Donald Trump is at it again. He couldn't steal the election through the courts or through lies. So now he's going back to his old tricks with Russia. And I don't know how any sane person in this country can think that Donald Trump doesn't have ties with Russia. And I'm starting to believe that not only does Donald Trump have ties to Russia, but also some of our members of Congress and the Senate. These people that's running quarterback for him or fullback for him, like Lindsey Graham and Devin Nunes, and a whole list of other people in Congress that's blocking for him. You see, this goes back to what I was talking about a year ago when Donald Trump launched short-range ballistic missiles that were banned. And later on in the show, we're going to talk about that and how what he did when he violated that treaty that Ronald Reagan and Mikhail Gorbachev put in place to keep short-range ballistic missiles from being used. Trump violated it because Putin couldn't do it himself. You see, when America shot those missiles off and violated the treaty, that gave Russia the go-ahead to start mass producing these missiles again. Y'all got to get this understood, how this is working. Donald Trump is beholden to Russia. He has been since the beginning. And he also has this love affair with racism and bigotry. We're not going to do my liquor tasting today. I didn't have time Friday or Saturday to go to the liquor store and pick up any anything to do. But next week we'll start back up with our liquor tasting. I went down to Mccabe and it got me a shot of something good. This is that caramel crown royal. But anyway, let's get into the show. We're gonna start off with this this first newscaster, cause see, I try to give you guys that listen to me something that I find during the week that needs to be understood more, instead of just going on and on and on about different subjects. You gotta listen and watch the key moments throughout the week when it comes to the news. Listen to this.
These are the first comments from the president since this hack first came to light a week ago, Alex. And instead of talking about the risks here, which have been laid out across the board by national security officials about this hack that has now affected the Treasury Department, the Defense Department, the State Department, the U.S. National Security Agency, the Cybersecurity Agency, and many others, the president instead is downplaying this and directly contradicting Secretary of State Mike Pompeo about who might have been behind it.
Now see, Russia also knows that Donald Trump is going out of power. He's 1 month from losing power. So basically, Russia has hacked a lot of our vital systems in this country, and they've embedded secret programs that would allow them to watch and monitor Americans, American government, American financial institutions, American businesses. And what that does is while Biden is president, Russia can throw monkey wrenches into the Biden presidency, which gives the Republicans and Donald Trump something to talk about. You see, all of this is a plot. It's a plan. And a lot of people are not talking about this. Let's dive further into this.
Basically, as soon as this came to light, that all signs pointed to Russia. So now we are asking the White House and the State Department why the president is suggesting, without any evidence, that in fact this was China. So far, radio silence from them. But this is just the latest example, Alex, that we've seen over the last 4 years of the president downplaying the threat to the United States from Russia, seeming to cover for Russian President Vladimir Putin when there have been signs of Russian malign activity towards the United States, including the alleged paying of bounties or offering of bounties to troops in Afghanistan to kill U.S. troops and other actions by the Russians that have not seemed to get the response from President Trump that security officials have said is merited by their behavior.
You see, the reason why Donald Trump is not responding, because he doesn't want to wake up the sleeping bear called Russia. Russia has already turned him into a stooge because for some specific reason, I think it deals with money. I also think it deals with a scandal that whatever Donald Trump was doing in Russia or in these foreign countries, Russia has information on. So whatever Russia's doing for these last month, these last 30 days, Donald Trump is going to turn a blind eye to it, because if he speaks out on it and Russia knows that he's going out of power, Russia can expose him and embarrass him in front of the world. You see, this is what's going on with this guy. This is what the founding fathers feared from a president. All of this stuff is coming to be as of right now. As of right now, people. And like I said, later on in the show, I'm going to talk about these short-range ballistic missiles that has disappeared out of the news. I had to go and get a news clip from European news just to prove that this happened, because about a year ago the American military launched a short-range ballistic missile that was warehoused or shelved. Let me explain what that means. What that means is, when you shelve ordnance or you shelve a weapon not to be used again, that doesn't mean you destroy it. But what that means is you put it up, you mothball it. You make it to the point where don't nobody know it's warehoused except for a handful of people in the military, and it's not to be used again. You see, in the 80s, Mccabe Gorbachev and Ronald Reagan came to an agreement that they would tone down nuclear missiles in the world. The long-range nuclear missiles, as I explained on one of my shows about a year ago, the long-range ballistic missiles go up in the atmosphere, go out into space, circles around the globe, drops back down into the atmosphere over whatever country that we're attacking. What that does is it gives that country enough time to defend themselves or warn the people to hide. Short-range ballistic missiles that carry nuclear weapons don't give you that opportunity. A short-range missile goes up in the air and goes straight to your country. It doesn't go into space. It doesn't give you the opportunity to warn your population that a nuclear strike is happening. You see, this is important, people. This is important. You see, I didn't like Reagan. I think Reagan did a lot of terrible things when it comes to minority people, as far as incarcerating minority people over drugs, which wasn't necessary. You know, the drug epidemic wasn't that bad. You know, what the whole DARE and the whole war against drugs was, that was the way that the administration of Reagan can keep blacks from having the same amount of money and power that whites have. Whites have been selling drugs, cocaine, and heroin in this country long before blacks. But when blacks started making money off of cocaine and heroin and drugs, now all of a sudden it's a pandemic, it's a problem. So I didn't like Ronald Reagan's administration. I didn't like their policies. But at the same time, what I did like about Reagan was the fact that he didn't play games when it come down to ballistic missiles and killing lots of people. So I had to give you that brief history about the long range and short range ballistic missiles that were banned back in the 80s. Because Donald Trump, about a year ago, he broke a treaty with Russia. You see, Russia couldn't break this treaty because it would make Donald Trump look bad. And then Donald Trump would have to say something and speak out against Russia. So some kind of way Russia and Donald Trump got together and decided Trump was going to break the treaty first. That gives Russia the green light to start mass producing these missiles again that were banned in the 80s. You see, all of this stuff disappeared out of the news. The only person that I saw even mention this in the news was Rachel Maddow. And now I can't even find that clip because it's been shoveled up under the table. But I went back and found a European news clip of that missile launch. And I'm going to play it for you later on. This is what's going on. The man is a Russian asset. And a lot of people are in disbelief or think that I'm some kind of alarmist when I'm telling you the man, Donald Trump, is a Russian asset. That doesn't mean he's a spy. That just means Russia has something on him that makes him beholden to the Russian government. It could be money, it can be a scandal, it can be anything. They keep saying there's a P-tape running around here that shows some Russian whores peeing on Donald Trump while he's naked, which is a rumor. You know, I can't say it's true or not, that's a rumor. But whatever it is Russia has on this man, he is willing to throw away this entire country as long as he doesn't upset Vladimir Putin. This should alarm everybody. We're going to get into this first commercial break, and when we get back, we're going to dive deeper into this.
The business, motherfucker.
The Daily Read.
Me and Bae gon' always be tight. Though you not with me every single day and night. Even when they start to acting like a fool, yeah, they loving every single thing you do. You know that they can always be themselves. They love each other more than anybody else. And every day as you see them on YouTube, you know there's not one, it'll always be just two. Two stupid Emily, two stupid Emily, two stupid family. They'll make you scream. It makes me wanna sing. It's a family thing, the family. Two stupid family, stupid family. They'll push your buttons. It makes me wanna cry. It's a family thing, the family. Two stupid family.
The business, motherfucker.
The Daily Read.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we back with the Daily Read, and I am your host, Marcus Gentry. Let's go over a quick recap of the first segment, just in case some of you just tuning in. On the first segment, we basically talked about how Russia just hacked a lot of our systems in this country, business, private and government. These people have put programs into our systems to where they can watch and observe us. And right now, our government is fighting it. Silent Donald Trump. Absent Donald Trump. Donald Trump still talking about how he won falsely the election. In the meantime, you got 3,000 people dying a day from coronavirus. That's a 9/11 of death every day. Can you imagine that? You see, some of y'all haven't been affected by COVID-19 as far as deaths yet. So if it hasn't hit your backyard, some of y'all don't believe it's real. But all you got to do is go to any of your cities and look at those freezer trucks. They call them they call them they put dead bodies in them. They morgue trucks. They call them morgue trucks because the morgue is so full of dead bodies from corona that they can't store everybody in them. So they back up 18-wheelers and convert them into morgues. And they got them hidden behind most of the major hospitals in this country. The whole time this man is quiet as a mouse about all of that. He's still trying to figure out how he's going to steal this election because he knows he has criminal charges waiting on him once he leaves the office. And I was going to dive into that, but I think I'm going to dive into his criminal charges that are facing him once he leaves office. I'm going to talk about that next week on next week's show. I'm going to pull out all the charges, and the main charge that could land him in jail. See, the rest of the charges can land him in jail if he was a normal person. But as far as the tax evasion and stuff go, any normal person will go to jail for this stuff. Donald Trump more than likely won't serve a day, but they will bankrupt him. They're going to make sure that Donald Trump never runs for presidency again after he leaves office. And he knows that. He could talk a good game. He could talk about how he's going to run in 2024. He could talk all of that. But Donald Trump is the worst president the United States has ever seen. He surpassed Nixon by a mile. And Nixon was corrupt. Nixon actually sent people into the Democratic building on a burglary to steal information. Can you imagine that? A president sending thugs in undercover at night to steal information from the Democratic Party. Donald Trump beat that by far with the stuff he's done. Let's get into this next clip.
Literally inside our communications networks at all of our key federal agencies, according to these reports. And that means that they not only can watch, they can lay in wait, they can potentially open other back doors, side doors to penetrate networks. They can stay there until they want to engage in not only broad espionage and collection, but potentially destruction, covert action, and other disruption measures. So this is a horrendous national security crisis. Of course, the president's nowhere to be found. And just to answer your second question, I'm actually glad he's not doing anything about it, because I think anything he would do about it would be more deferential to the Russians. Gary Kasparov, the chess icon turned Kremlin critic, I think had it right. He said the way you know the Russians were behind this is because Donald Trump has said nothing about it.
You see, he's not going to say anything about this. Because like I said, they got something on him. There was a scandal down in Florida where Donald Trump bought a mansion for $40 million. And he turned around and resold it to a Russian oligarch for $75 million. Now, that story has been buried because he done so much stuff since then, but the government was looking into money laundering with that property. But by far the worst thing that he has facing him is a rape charge. Nobody even talks about it. the judge in the rape case refused to dismiss it because the woman has the dress, the same dress from 20 years ago that she got raped in. And it supposedly still has Donald Trump's DNA on it. The only reason the government hasn't taken his DNA yet is because he's president. You see, that charge right there is probably the only charge that Donald Trump really fears going to prison for. The rest of those charges, they're going to make sure he goes bankrupt to the point where once he start paying all these fines for evading taxes, stuff that'll send a normal person to prison, I don't think they're going to put him in prison for that because he has enough money to pay these fines. But that rape charge, where that woman accused him of molesting her, pushing her against the wall and forcing her to have sex with him, like I said, she still has the dress. And you better believe a day or two after he steps out that White House, a whole slew of charges and indictments and legal fees is going to hit Donald Trump. This is the reason why he's fighting so hard to stay in office. This is the reason why he's willing to give up democracy and steal this election, when he already know, and the right wing, the Republicans already know that people voted him out. Now the scary part about that is, even though Joe Biden had 82 million people vote for him, which is the biggest number of voters in history, he even beat Barack Obama. Joe Biden beat Barack Obama in votes. The second most highest votes in history was Donald Trump. That should scare the bejesus out of everybody. That means every second or third person you see on the streets is a Donald Trump supporter. That's scary. That means people have abandoned their morals and values. And these are the people you have to deal with on a daily basis. And you don't even know who they are. Some of them might even be black. Some of them might even be Hispanic. You don't know who these people are. They've abandoned their morals, their dignity, their sense of righteousness to support somebody like that. That's scary. And I work in a small group of people, about 30 truck drivers. And with the exception of maybe 3 or 4 close associates of mine that I work with every day on a daily basis, I can walk in that office and tell damn near every one of them guys in there is Trump supporters. And it's amazing. It's shocking. They didn't like Hillary Clinton because they say she was corrupt. But this guy's a flat out criminal. And maybe a rapist. Allegedly. I'm going to talk about these ballistic missiles. Because like I said in the first segment of the show, about a year ago, Donald Trump violated a treaty with Russia and test fired a short-range ballistic missile that was banned by the international, I think it's called IFC. It's the international, it's a part of the United Nations where they keep an eye on governments who use banned armaments like gas, missiles, and things like that. And Ronald Reagan and Mikhail Gorbachev, they signed a treaty saying that they would never use these missiles again. And like I say, Russia has been wanting to use these missiles, but their hands was tied by this treaty. So I guarantee you, they got Donald Trump to break the treaty first. He had no reason to even shoot that missile off. No reason at all. We got plenty of missiles. We got missiles everywhere, all across the world. He had no reason whatsoever to test fire a banned missile, except for one reason, and that's to help Russia. Because once America broke that treaty, that gave Russia the go-ahead to start using these missiles again. Think about that for a second. I'm going to let that sit on your soul. He had no reason to even shoot that missile. I don't even believe he even knew that that missile existed. This man was a real estate investor. What did he know about missiles? Somebody had to tell him, why don't you go test that missile? That means somebody implanted that in his mind. That means Russia, and see, there's a lot of speculation going on about these private talks that Vladimir Putin and Donald Trump has had over the past 4 years, where they didn't allow anybody to take down notes of their conversations. So there's no telling what Vladimir Putin was telling Trump. This is some scary stuff. They make movies about this stuff. I'm gonna get into this this newspaper, because like I said, there's only one television program that talked about this, and that was Rachel Maddow. And since she talked about it a year ago, the video has been taken down. I can't find it nowhere. No other news person in America but her. And I like her show because Rachel Maddow, she gets the dirt on everybody. There are people in both sides, the Democrats and the Republicans, that call her up. And believe me, if you ever see her show and she disappears for a day and have Joy Reid, the black girl Joy Reid, take her place for a night, that means Rachel Maddow done got some dirt on somebody. That means she's meeting her contacts. That's what that means. And you can believe when she comes back to do her show that next day, she gonna have the goods on somebody. That's how deep Rachel Maddow is. People from all walks of life contact this woman and give her information and blow the whistle on people. And I can't even find that video anywhere. They done took it down. But I went to European news and found it. Listen to this.
The United States has conducted a ground-launched ballistic missile. The Pentagon said on Thursday that the test took place from the Vandenberg Air Force Base in California. The missile flew for more than 500 kilometers before being terminated in the open ocean. The test would not have been allowed under the 1987 Intermediate Range Nuclear Forces Treaty, or INF, but the US withdrew from that agreement with Russia in August as it claimed Moscow was violating the treaty, an accusation the Kremlin has rejected.
So basically, that's the only place I've been able to find this. I had to search European news to find out and bring it to you. You see, I try to bring to you real event. I don't bring no he say she say. I don't do that on my show. I try not to do conspiracy theories. And I know if I wouldn't have brought that clip out, or some type of clip out, to let you know that this did happen. It happened under the cover of night, like early in the morning, 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. They shot off the coast of California a missile that has been banned since the 80s. Donald Trump had no business shooting that missile off whatsoever. And this happened a year ago. And nobody talks about it. Nobody talks about it. So what happens is, now that nobody's talking about it, Russia is probably mass producing these missiles right now. Because America broke that treaty and shot one of the missiles off. And like I said in my first segment, the reason why these missiles are so dangerous is because it cuts the warning time down for a nuclear attack. Long-range ballistic missiles go up into space, go across the world, and drops back down into the atmosphere over your country. Short-range ballistic missiles go up in the air and go straight towards your country. There's a difference. There's a difference in about an hour, 45 minutes. That means you have less than 45 minutes to prepare for a nuclear strike. And that's what Ronald Reagan and Mikhail Gorbachev tried to avoid. They wanted to let the world know that if a nuclear bomb did drop anywhere in the world, you would have time to prepare yourself, hide, seek shelter. Short-range ballistic missiles doesn't give you that time. This is why Russia wanted those missiles. We'll go into this next commercial break, and we'll get back. We're going to talk a little more further into the scapegoat. Donald Trump's scapegoat. After he done let Barr go, here comes the scapegoat.
The business, motherfucker.
The Daily Read.
The business, motherfucker.
The Daily Read.
As of today, thanks to Jason Leopold and Anthony Cormier at BuzzFeed, we can see the criminal referral that went to the Justice Department about Trump's behavior. This criminal referral from the Inspector General, who was like, I've looked into this in a preliminary way. This looks serious to me. You need to evaluate whether this is potential crimes. He put it in writing. We can see that document for the first time today. And we know how that story ends, right? That Inspector General who made that criminal referral about Trump fired him several months later. He fired him in April of 2020. But the guy who was given the criminal complaint to deal with, the one who buried it and tried to make it go away and said there doesn't even need to be an investigation of this, that was Jeffrey Rosen. And Jeffrey Rosen just got named to be the new Attorney General for the last month of Trump's time in office.
Now, let's get to Jeffrey Rosen and why he plays a big part in Donald Trump's last 30 days in office. We've already talked about the whole Russian hack that happened. And see, it's up to prosecutors to go after people who are helping, aiding, and abetting these Russian hackers. Bill Barr, he's a career law enforcement. He's a career, he's already been the Attorney General of the United States up under Bush. I think it was Bush. Now, Bill Barr doesn't want to ruin his legacy. For some strange reason, this man literally thinks that his legacy is a good thing, but it's not. He's going to go down in history as the worst Attorney General. He's worse than Hoover. And Hoover had a reputation of being a drag queen. They say they caught Edgar Hoover in drag. And he was dealing with Italian mafia on certain crimes. And he was a racist. But Bill Barr has managed to, he done managed to fill that void as the worst Attorney General of all time. Actually, Hoover was over the FBI. He was the first director of the FBI. But at that time, the FBI and the Attorney General was linked. So it's still the same thing. Now you got a situation where this Jeffrey Rosen guy, who's been the one who's really doing the secret dirty work for Donald Trump. Bill Barr was the front man. He was the guy everybody agreed that was a decent attorney general. And then come to find out he was a piece of shit. Bill Barr picked Jeffrey Rosen as a scapegoat. You see, now it's coming out that all this stuff that Bill Barr was supposedly doing, he wasn't really doing it. He signed off on it because he's the attorney general, but it was a man who has no experience in courtrooms whatsoever, who was appointed by Donald Trump, that's under Bill Barr, that was doing all of this. Listen to this.
But it's, but look at what else has happened over Jeffrey Rosen's tenure since he and William Barr have been in office. As reporter Charlie Savage puts it today at the New York Times, quote, Mr. Rosen has kept a low profile, but with Attorney General Barr's pending resignation, Rosen is set to become the nation's top law enforcement official for the delicate final month of Mr. Trump's presidency. It will be an extraordinary responsibility for a man who has no prosecutorial experience and who has participated in several decisions in which the department took steps that favored the president's friends or punished his perceived enemies.
Now, basically what they're doing, people, is finding a scapegoat. You see, it's up to Bill Barr to investigate these Russian hacks. He's stepping down or got fired because, like I said, he was the front man. He was the guy who had a reputation in the Justice Department, and he doesn't want his legacy being ruined, because there's two things that's finna happen. Russia already done happened. That's one. They've hacked. They doing everything they can the last month that Donald Trump is president, because they know Biden is not gonna allow this stuff to go on. The second thing that's finna happen is the pardons. Donald Trump is going to try to pardon himself and his family. Now, I'm going to tell you why. He's not going to trust Mike Pence to do the right thing. See how this backstabbing work? These all the backstabbers. You see when Nixon he wanted to pardon himself, but the lawyers told him he couldn't. To pardon somebody, the Constitution says to grant pardon on another individual. It doesn't say you can pardon yourself. So they didn't go that route with Nixon. They had Nixon retire and had his vice president pardon him. You see, Donald Trump is not going to go that route. He's not going to take that chance. He's going to try to pardon himself. I don't think it's going to work. And the reason why I don't think it's going to work is because the Republicans don't want to take a chance of setting precedent. And I want y'all to be very, I'm finna get very specific here. Okay, I'm finna get very detailed about this. If Donald Trump pardons himself, that's going to open the door for every president that comes along after Donald Trump, Democrat or Republican, to do whatever they want to do, including murder. It might be 20 years from now, a president might decide to publicly execute somebody himself. And he's not going to be worried about going to jail for it. You know why? Because Donald Trump has already set the precedent that you can pardon yourself. This is why I don't think the Congress is going to, and the Supreme Court is going to allow this to happen. But Donald Trump is going to try it anyway. And the reason why he's going to try it is because Mike Pence, I don't think Mike Pence likes Donald Trump. I don't think the whole Republican Party likes Donald Trump. It's the people in power anyway. Now the normal voters, they like Donald Trump. But the people in power of the Republican Party, I don't think they like Donald Trump. Donald Trump was an ends to a means for them. Donald Trump was he was that front man that they could dump all the crap on him and say he's the cause of it. The racism, the bigotry. Now watch what happens once he's out of power. They're going to say, look, he was the president, he did this. We didn't do this. See, that's what's finna go on. And see, Mike Pence is going to be stuck in a situation where he used to be the governor of Indiana. And while he was the governor of Indiana, he did a lot of messed up stuff in the name of religion, because he's supposed to be a deeply Christian religious man. Now, this is where it's going to come to heads at. Donald Trump is going to have to take a chance and retire, and hoping that Mike Pence pardons him. Mike Pence doesn't have to do that. Now, unless he got something on Mike Pence. You see, now we're getting into the weeds of this. Jeffrey Rosen has been placed at the head of the Justice Department because Bill Barr don't want to get involved in this. Bill Barr is smart enough to know that trouble is coming. Over the last 30 days of Donald Trump's presidency, trouble is coming. Bill Barr don't want his name attached to it at all. So they placing Jeff Rosen in Bill Barr's place, a man who has no prosecutorial experience whatsoever. They placing him at the head of the Justice Department, because it's up to the Justice Department to go to Donald Trump and tell Donald Trump, look, you can't do this. You can't pardon yourself. Then there's another problem. In order to pardon yourself, you got to admit to doing a crime. Now we got a problem. You see that sheriff down in I think it was Arizona, Sheriff Joe Arpaio. He found out that when he got that pardon from Donald Trump, that pardon meant that he committed a crime. You can't pardon somebody who doesn't commit a crime. I want y'all to think about that for a minute. You have to admit that you committed a crime in order to get a pardon. You can't just get a pardon when there's no need for a pardon. Sheriff Joe Arpaio found that out the hard way. I don't have the video on me, but I watched the video. He thought that he was going to get a pardon and go back into law enforcement. The sheriff department said they don't want him. You know why? Because you're a criminal. He said, no, I'm not a criminal. I'm ad-libbing. But he basically said, no, I'm not a criminal. I've been pardoned. But they had to tell Sheriff Joe Arpaio, a pardon means you committed a crime and you got forgiven for it. This is where Donald Trump is finna run into problems, because he don't know what Mike Pence, who is some kind of religious zealot, is gonna do. If Donald Trump retires, steps down as president before his time is up, and allow Mike Pence to become president, thinking that Mike Pence is gonna pardon him, Mike Pence might turn around and say, you know what? I'm a religious man. You committed a crime, you need to do the time. Mike Pence might say, man, I'm not pardoning you. You see how this backstabbing works? That's how these people move. You don't know what Mike Pence is going to do. Then again, Mike Pence just might say, forget it. Pardon him. You never know. But I do know that Mike Pence is a religious fanatic. Mike Pence didn't even want to give AIDS patients in Indiana hypodermic needles. He felt like giving drug addicts who have AIDS hypodermic needles for free was promoting their habit. When the doctors was telling Mike Pence before he made that law that, look, we trying to keep the spread of AIDS down. So we can't stop them from doing drugs. They're addicts. So we have a program set up to where if they come in for counseling, we'll give them free needles. That way they won't spread the AIDS virus. Mike Pence put a law out banning that in Indiana when he was governor. You see, like I said, you never know what way you don't know what that man might do. He's creepy. If you ever just sit back and watch this guy, he is more dangerous than Donald Trump. You see, Donald Trump, you can see a clown coming a mile away. You can see him coming a mile away. Mike Pence, he's creepy just like Donald Trump, but you don't know how he gonna move. And Donald Trump knows this. That's why he put Rosen as the head of the Justice Department, because Bill Barr knows trouble is coming and he don't want to have no parts to do with it. Now I'm finna give you an insight on Rosen, what all he's done over the last 4 years.
I would add to that steps that benefited the president directly against serious allegations of criminal behavior. But the litany of things that Rosen's been involved in is amazing. I mean, among other things, it was Jeffrey Rosen who tried to force an indictment of Andrew Mccabe, who was the acting FBI director who took over the FBI after Trump fired Comey. McCabe had overseen the important parts of the Russia investigation. President Trump demanded that McCabe be prosecuted and locked up. It was Jeffrey Rosen who tried to insist that McCabe must be indicted, that he must be prosecuted against the views of career prosecutors. It was also Jeffrey Rosen who was put in charge of reviewing the work of career prosecutors who took on the case of Roger Stone. The result of Rosen's review was that DOJ came in and tried to overrule all those prosecutors to insist that Roger Stone get a much lighter sentence. The prosecutors on that case quit in protest after what Jeffrey Rosen did to their case against Stone. It was Jeffrey Rosen who, according to the New York Times, quarterbacked the Justice Department bringing a case against Trump National Security Advisor John Bolton when Bolton set out to write a book critical of President Trump. Trump reportedly demanded that the Justice Department go after Bolton for having the temerity to write a negative book about Trump. It was Jeffrey Rosen that actually led the Justice Department in that effort to, in fact, put the power of the U.S. Justice Department into an effort to go after Bolton. It was also Jeffrey Rosen who decided that Trump Cabinet Secretary Ryan Zinke shouldn't be prosecuted, even after Zinke was referred for criminal prosecution related to a number of scandals.
Now, that was Jeffrey Rosen. You see, everybody was talking about Bill Barr, Bill Barr, Bill Barr. Bill Barr was just the figurehead over the Justice Department. Rosen, who has no prosecutorial experience whatsoever, was the guy making all of these moves. He was the guy sent into the Justice Department by Trump. I hope y'all learned something today. This man is going to be even more dangerous the last 30 days of his presidency. And there's no telling what's going to happen. But there's one thing for sure. January 20th, he will come up out of that White House.
The business, motherfucker.
The Daily Read.